Red Bull, as we all know, are in a lot of trouble recently. And due to bad performances and a bad car, Max Verstappen has been asking, if not demanding, for change. And for the first time in a long time, Red Bull seems to open up about what went wrong and what will change to save this season. It all started with a public power fight back in February. And although Helmut Marko agrees the early season Christian Horner controversy does not assist Red Bull, it is not the cause of the present problems. Rather, he adds, it was the loss of important people, but he doesn't hold it against them as they seek new opportunities. Despite starting the season with 4 victories in 5 races, Red Bull has only won 3 of the previous 11, and the team is now on a 6-race winless skid. Something unimaginable at the start of the season. That has cost them in the Constructors' Championship, where the team is only 8 points ahead of McLaren, despite Verstappen's more secure 62-point lead in the drivers' standings. Although he has lost distance to Lando Norris since his previous victory in Spain, the McLaren driver has only regained 7 points across 6 races. But it might get closer if Red Bull doesn't step up. Thus, Red Bull has been left to figure out where things went wrong, with the spotlight pointing mostly at the team's ill-fated Hungarian Grand Prix improvements, albeit Verstappen confessed he had been grumbling about the car's balance long before then. While it has been speculated that the turbulence of Horner's early season scandal had a factor, Marko referred to the departure of important personnel. "It's clear that something like that doesn't help," Marko said, "but ultimately it's not directly related to our technical problems but to the departure of important people. If certain employees want to change and receive a good offer, or see a new opportunity, then they take it." However, while he did not name names, the revelation that Red Bull would be bidding farewell to longtime technical expert Adrian Newey, who was stepping down from his F1 duties, coincided with the team's downturn. Marko, on the other hand, thinks that Formula One is no longer a sport in which one person's effect is felt as strongly as it was 2 decades ago, when Newey first joined the team. At that time, nobody had experienced how to win races and to win championships, so at that stage, a man made a difference, the Red Bull advisor said. "Nowadays the team, we have 2,000 people, so nowadays the team matters. It's not one single man that has changed." You have far more simulation tools. You have so much more data that single man is not the difference anymore. But that was different. That was the difference when Newey came. So, if it isn't due to Newey leaving, then what is the real problem? Forget outlandish conspiracy ideas about the FIA requesting that Red Bull's hidden tricks be removed from its car. Instead, Red Bull's troubles are entirely of its own doing. While there is no official answer as to what happened, team manager Christian Horner dropped a curious clue following the Italian Grand Prix regarding a possible cause of the team's problems. Speaking about the balance problems that are hurting the car, Horner said, "It's disconnected front and rear. We can see that. Our wind tunnel doesn't say that, but the track says that. So it's getting on top of that, because obviously when you have that, it means you can't trust your tools. Then, you have to go back to track data and previous experience." In order to figure out what went wrong for the team, let's look at how it has been attempting to fix problems. In terms of outcomes and car conduct, it appears that the Miami Grand Prix was the tipping point. This was true not only for Red Bull, but also for those chasing it, as McLaren introduced its first significant overhaul of the season, catapulting it to victory, and providing a far more useful platform at each race. Meanwhile, Mercedes joined the battle after delivering its own substantial upgrade package in Monaco. Ferrari was at and near the head of the field until around this time, before its problems in Canada and the resumption of high-speed bouncing from the Spanish GP floor. Another example of a team discovering that its simulation tools were stating one thing while the actual car was saying another. Red Bull has clearly become aware of the prospect of a wind tunnel correlation issue and, over the course of the previous few races, has been testing out many elements from its upgrade library in attempt to find a safe solution that does not lose performance. In addition to working through its faults, Red Bull has been attempting to enhance the RB20 which has produced in a nearly continuous development program, with improvements made at every race except Austria and Belgium. Looking back at the timeline of revisions since Miami, we can see how much of the RB20 has evolved, and how much of its programming has been divided between long-term and short-term objectives. For example, since the Miami race, Red Bull has made 13 performance improvements to the car and 9 circuit-specific adjustments. That's how much they've attempted to close the gap on McLaren and the other ones in front. The extent of the alterations indicates that if it is one component that has caused the erroneous turn, it will be difficult to determine what it is. This looks to be new terrain for Red Bull as well, given it has not encountered the same challenges as its competitors in the previous 3 seasons. Its development success rate has always been pretty high, producing roughly what was intended. This implies that it must now not only learn how to cope with the current situation, but also comprehend why it occurred in order to prevent it from happening again in the future. The key now is to determine which of its tools are reputable and trustworthy. As Horner said, it's not unusual that when something's not working on the car, you end up with different readings from your simulation tools, and they don't converge. Then you get 3 sets of data. You get CFD, you get wind tunnel, and you get track. Obviously the one that really counts is the track data, but to develop it, it's like telling the time with 3 different watches. You've got to focus on the tool that's going to give you the most valuable input, and of course the track data is the most reliable. The main question is how long it will take Red Bull to discover solutions to its problems, and how much development work that has already been completed or is now underway at its facility will have to be abandoned as a result. As with others in a similar circumstance, the repercussions of devoting time to working through this might be severe. If a team spends time gathering data from old parts to identify problems, it indicates that its concentration is not on producing improvements that make it faster. So, if you also have competitors that are on an upward trajectory, the performance gap between you and them might quickly widen. This is development latency that isn't visible, but can be altogether damaging not only for the remainder of this campaign, but can also have implications going forward. Another reason that has received little notice is that F1 has been through a period of the calendar in which Pirelli adjusted the minimum tyre pressures to match the load characteristics of the circuits being visited. This can also drive a car further away from its operating window, whether mechanically or aerodynamically, as both are obviously intricately related. However, Red Bull isn't backing down from the challenge, not even this year, as Christian Horner has stated that his team will go to any length to reclaim its F1 leadership. Horner stated that the team is putting all of its efforts into maintaining its title lead until the conclusion of the year. "You've got to question everything," Horner said. "You have to question, has something else changed? So you can leave no stone unturned." Horner said that the RB20 has a limited operating window but is still capable of winning under the correct conditions. "Where we were before Miami, in China and Japan, we won at a canter," he said. "When the car is in the window and it works, you see in Austria, on all 4 sets of tyres, Max put the car on pole position and was leading the race easily until the final pit stop. Spa in the wet, even if you take out Max's super talent, Checo was still on the front row. When the car is in the window, it works as predicted, or closer to prediction. But that window is so small, and that's what we have to work on, and we have to broaden its operating window. The question is, if they will be able to produce parts that make the car faster and easier to get into the right operating window. Only then they might be able to defend their Constructors' Championship. What do you think? Have they finally figured out where it went wrong? Or are they still lost? And will they be able to make waves this weekend at the Azerbaijan Grand Prix? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below.